Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Welcome, Heart-Led Heroes. Today, we're thrilled to have Kim Ades. She's adding a sprinkle of magic to the coaching world as the visionary behind Frame of Mind Coaching and Journal Engine software. Kim is on a mission to illuminate blind spots and cultivate clarity. With a heart as expansive as her entrepreneurial spirit and the wisdom of a mom of 5, she'll share her journey of leading with love and purpose. So get ready to be inspired on the Heart-Led Business Show. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really delighted to be here today.
Yes, I'm really excited too to help the audience with some of those blind spots that they're seeing in their business, because I know that's a lot of what you do to help. So I'm really excited to go into that, your story, and definitely how they can implement some of the stuff that you've implemented. But before we do that, the first question I always like to ask is, what's your definition of a heart-led business?
For me, a heart-led business is when the owner is running a business that they would run without an income. In other words, they would do it regardless of money. So if I retired tomorrow or if I sold my business, what would I do? I would still be doing this because it's like I'm so drawn and pulled to it, I can't not do it. So that is my definition of a heart-led business.
I love that definition too, because that really does describe a lot of the heart-led business owners that I speak to, is that I would do that. And to be fair, a lot of them do it for free anyway, in terms of how they're charging.
Yes, that's a whole different story.
Yeah. And that's really the crux of the program too, of the show, is to help people realize that you can still make a profit and still be heart-led doing it.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I think that when you do make a profit, you can be more heart-led.
Yeah, it becomes easier, right?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your business and what makes it heart-led.
So I am the president and founder of an executive coaching company called Frame of Mind Coaching, and we have been coaching leaders, or what we call the highly driven population, for the almost 21 years. And we have a very unique approach and philosophy around coaching. And so one of the things that we do is we go very quickly with our clients. So we coach people who tend to be impatient and want results quickly. And we go very deep, and it's a very intimate experience. And so what happens is we usually start with a 10-week coaching period. We have a call every week. We record every call so that our clients can listen to the recordings, and they are expected to listen to the recordings so that they can hear how they show up, what they say, the stories they tell, etc. But then in between every call, we ask them to journal in a private and secure online journal every single day, even on the weekends, with their coach. So what this is, at the beginning of the week, we give them a journaling question or a journaling prompt, and they journal. And every time they journal, which is daily, their coach is on the other side of that journal asking more questions, providing coaching, encouragement, challenging them sometimes, reminding them of their goals, et cetera, et cetera. So imagine working with somebody on a daily basis to help you get to where you want to go. That's not really common in the coaching industry at all. But I think of it like, hey, imagine you're an Olympic athlete. How much time are you spending with your coach? Every waking moment of every day, right? So when we think about coaches in the business world or the executive world, is there anything that closely resembles that level of coaching? And there isn't. And this is as close as it gets. That's what we do.
Oh, that's amazing. And so 21 years of being in business, what got you into that business in the first place?
Two things got me into the business, maybe more than two, but let's start with two. I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So before I owned this business, I owned another business, and we used to build simulation-based assessments. And the purpose of those assessments was to help companies make better hiring decisions. Keep in mind, that was like 30 years ago when simulations weren't even technologically at the place they are now, right? Like we were on the bleeding edge of technology, and it was pretty bad at the time, but we were still on the forefront. And so we learned a lot about what differentiates top performers from other people. And one might think it's their experience, their education, their level of intelligence, whatever, their personality, and none of that is accurate. What we discovered was that there was one key difference between top performers and other people, and that was their degree of emotional resilience. And not only their resilience, but their ability to take an adverse experience, so something goes bad, they not only get up fast, they recover quickly, but then they leverage that negative experience in some kind of way. And so that was one piece of information that was very valuable. But I sold my business after 10 years of running it, and I got recruited within a few weeks to work for a coaching company here in Toronto as their VP of marketing. And I got to observe how they coach. And in my mind, I felt like they were missing some key components and they were getting it wrong. And I thought I could do a better job. And so that's when, and besides, once you're an entrepreneur, it's really hard to work for someone else.
Oh, of
And
course.
so I lasted like 8.5 months. And then,
wow. That's
we
long.
agreed, that's long. We agreed to part ways, and I was so relieved. But then I said, I'm going to try this on my own. And that's when I started Frame of Mind Coaching.
That's great. What a journey. And I'm sure like the journaling that you have your clients go through really touches to their heart as well, does it not?
Absolutely. So when we look at this combination that I'm talking about, the emotional resilience component and my observation of how other coaches did their work, what I realized is that what we really need to do is, like, people by and large know what to do, but they're not doing it. And the question is why? What's actually getting in the way? Let's take weight loss as an example. Most people know what they're supposed to do, and they do it for a period of time, but for some reason they can't seem to do it consistently. And the question is, how come? What's actually blocking that progress? And it has to do with the way they think, the way they see the world, the way they see themselves, what beliefs they have, and where those beliefs come from. It has to do with their brain and the wiring of their brain. And so a great coach doesn't just hold someone accountable and make sure they're doing all the things that they need to do. A great coach really gets to the root of that problem and helps the person rewire the brain, right? So I said, in my mind, I need to understand how this person thinks and how their thinking impacts everything they don't do and how they do everything, and understand where their thinking is leading them astray. And just help them make some small corrections to point them back in the right direction. I don't need to manage their actions. I don't need to hold them accountable. I don't need to make sure they do all the things they need to do. They don't need a babysitter, especially people who are very highly driven, already action takers.
Yeah.
But they all have blind spots. We talked about that, right? They all have blind spots. And those blind spots play havoc with them and mess their plans, goals, dreams. And my job is to understand where their thinking creates mess for them and help them clean it up.
Yeah. And so by getting them to journal on a regular basis, now you're able to see their patterns. Is that the philosophy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We see their patterns, we see their storylines, we see their values, we see their beliefs. We see how they operate on a day-to-day basis. We see what bugs them, what lights them up. We see where they feel self-doubt and fear and worry and shame. We see it all.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
wow.
amazing.
That's powerful too, because like you said, a lot of the high performers, they're already performing at a high level as what everybody would see from the outside. But of course, we feel, and I would put myself in that category of high performer as well, and serial entrepreneur like yourself, that we don't know what we don't know. And by having somebody have us doing that activity on a regular basis will help us now see what those blind spots are and be able to correct those.
It's extremely powerful, very high impact. And the coach is there by your side every single day. And that's not something we see in the coaching world. It's unprecedented. And it's extremely effective for working with those highly driven individuals who are tired of being stuck in the same place or who are tired of bumping into the same challenges over and over again. And they may not even realize it, because what we discover is that people tend to create the same situations over and over again in different outfits, right? Like they look a little different, but essentially there's a same through line between them.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were first starting the company, what was the thought process in terms of how you're going to be helping your ideal customer, and how is that kind of coming from your heart to theirs to actually build a business?
So for me, when I first started, I had a lot of fear, like any biz owner. Yeah. And my greatest fear was that I didn't want to be an insignificant coach. Like I didn't want to be a coach who had no impact or who didn't matter or who didn't make a difference, who left a lifelong imprint. I thought about it exactly that way. And I thought, how do I do that? How exactly do I do that? When we get on the phone on a weekly basis, like, how do I know exactly what to talk about? And how do I have a rich conversation that delivers a ton of value? So my entire thinking was not how do I build a business at the time. My entire focus was on how do I deliver mind-blowing, outstanding, top-grade coaching? How do I do that?
Yeah.
And so for me, I thought I need to get inside their heads. I need to see what they tell themselves all day, every day. I need to hear the dialogue that's running on in their minds. I need to see how they see the world. I need to see how they interact with others. I need to see the quality and style of their relationships. I need to know them very well. If I don't know them very well, how could I possibly coach them?
Yeah.
And so my obsession from the get-go and until today is how do we deliver coaching that is absolutely top tier? And when you focus on that, the rest falls into place.
Yeah. Obviously, I talked to lots and lots of coaches as well. And for many of them, the first thought is, how can I create a business to provide an income for myself?
Yeah, that wasn't my first thought.
Yeah, clearly not. And you can see, and I can always see the difference as well between the businesses and maybe that coaching company that you lasted 8.5 months with, which is probably more than I would have lasted. But what were you seeing some of that in terms of profit first and then let's talk about the people, or
I just like their whole way of operating just rubbed me the wrong way, you could say. So I'll give you an example. They had a sales team, and each person on the sales team was expected to make 100 cold calls a day. And if they only made 80 cold calls, then they had to do 20 push-ups. And that just wasn't my style of leadership at all. Another example was that their whole entire coaching model was based on accountability. And again, I thought people do know what to do. Why aren't they doing it? And like personally, like I felt two things. I felt like as a client, the last thing I want to do is answer to somebody else. And then the other thing I felt was if I were a coach, the last thing I would want to do is hold somebody accountable. That just doesn't a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound inspiring. It's not a growth model. It's not anything. And I just felt like something's missing here. Like they're missing the point. And the point is that people hold themselves back. And the question is why? How? What's the function here? How do we get to that? And how do we help them move out of their own way? And that's what really happened for me. Okay. And by the way, going back to the how do I make money out of this? When I first started coaching, again, I was terrified. I had a couple of fears. Fear number one was, what am I going to talk to somebody about for a whole hour? That's way too long. Like, how are we going to make that time go by? And so from the get-go, I said, okay, I'm going to coach a group of people. And then if everybody talks for 5 or 10 minutes, then the hour will pass. I had that strategy in mind. The second thing that I was terrified about was that the industry I was involved with, based on my previous business, was the real estate industry. That's where I hung out. And so when you launch a business, you want to go back to your network and leverage the people you know. And so I offered coaching to real estate professionals. But I wasn't a real estate professional. And I thought, what if they ask me real estate questions? And I don't know how to answer those questions. And so I found a guy to co-coach with me. And so here was the deal. Because I never coached anybody before, I ran what's called a pilot, right? A pilot.
Okay. Yeah.
I decided to run a 10-week pilot. I had 5 people in the pilot. I charged them each $100 for those 10 weeks because I wanted some level of skin in the game.
Sure.
And on top of that, I hired this guy to co-coach with me, and I paid him $1,000 to do that. So do the math.
Yeah, you lost 500.
I lost $500 in order to learn the lay of the land. And
that's a pretty good investment then.
Yeah. What I discovered after that, I thought it's an inexpensive degree right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I discovered after my first pilot, because the goal of the pilot is to do a run and then get feedback and then make some adjustments. And the people in the group said, we love what you're doing. We love this journaling concept because I did it from the very beginning. And we don't like that guy. You don't need him. You don't need him. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I think it makes sense, as you were talking about that you really don't need industry knowledge to help somebody overcome their own limiting beliefs.
Correct.
It's within that journaling and coming from the heart in terms of how can I serve this person and help them overcome what's missing.
Exactly. But 21 years ago, I didn't know what I was walking into. So I had some, let's call them safe measures in place to address my insecurities.
Yeah. It's a very smart way of doing it so that you're covering all the bases. As you're building the business and working with other coaches, are there times where you're working with somebody or for yourself where you're wanting a heart-led business, but it comes down to, I need to make some profit too. Like, how do you balance that kind of in our own heads? I need to make money, but I don't want to come across as too salesy, or I don't want to push people, or I'm afraid of making money.
I never thought that way. I always thought about, what is the value I'm delivering? Is that worth?
Okay.
From a financial standpoint, as I said, my first round, I charged $100. The second round, I charged $250. The third round, I charged $500, then $750, and I kept going. I'm way higher than that now. But it was always about, what is the value I'm delivering? And for me, when I look at it, it's really, we are delivering transformation. We are delivering life-changing experiences. And that has infinite value. Like, there's no actual dollar amount. And it's really related to how much conviction do you have about what you're delivering, who you offer.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. And in a sales aspect, that conviction comes through as well. So like when you're in the sales conversation, having a firm conviction that, yes, definitely I can help you. That comes through and enables that person to go, yeah, I'm confident now you can help me.
Right. And it's not just me. I have a team of coaches, because I can't coach everybody, but I have a team of coaches that all coach from the same playbook. So they were all trained and certified in what we call the frame of mind coaching methodology. Yeah. So it's amazing when I can feel with absolute certainty that no matter which coach you work with, you will be experiencing an extraordinary run with this coaching.
Yeah. And that transformation is such a key thing. And I want the listeners to really key in on that too, is what Kim said about the transformation, because that's ultimately what you sell in any type of sales situation, is the experience and the transformation. not the actual program that you go through, because there's a million coaches out there. Who's going to provide the best experience and transformation? And it sounds like you've created that framework for people.
Yeah, and I really believe that, like, honestly, I am biased, I will admit that, but I just don't understand how coaches coach without asking their clients to journal. It's a night and day situation. Like, when the client doesn't journal, it's like walking into a pitch dark room with a blindfold on and you're like going, where are the lights? When the client journals, you walk into the room, the lights are on, you have no blindfold on, and you can see where everything is. It's that stark. And like, I encourage every single coach who's out there to look for and consider using a journal. And of course, we have one that we could share, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me.
I know. And when I was doing nutrition coaching, we always had people do the journaling in terms of what they ate. And there's study after study that shows just the journaling alone will enable somebody to lose weight, just because they have to write down and they have to think, and it becomes a conscious effort, versus eating oftentimes is very unconscious.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
business is the same way, right? We just are the norms that we go through, and we're not realizing that behavior is negatively impacting the business somehow.
Exactly. And writing it down, you go, should I eat that? Oh, gee, I got to write it down. Maybe I'll skip it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I need to get back to journaling, I think. Thanks for that reminder, Kim.
Absolutely.
It's so important.
Go back to it.
Yeah. Awesome. This was great. So tell us about has there been any moments where you've just had to make that hard decision of being heart-led versus profit-led in your business or in any of your coaching clients?
I mean, like, it's interesting that you make a distinction, and I don't think there is a distinction.
Okay,
so you're separating the two. I would propose to you that they're not separate. They're one and the same. It's saying, hey, is there a time when, you have let your health go for some kind of purpose, some kind of other, and we know that healthier people are able to serve better, are able to serve at a higher level. The same thing with healthy businesses, right? Healthy businesses can serve further, deeper, better, more efficiently, more effectively, etc. So they are not different endeavors. They are one and the same. So did we have hard years? Sure. COVID was very tough, very tough. But the reason it was tough is not because suddenly we had to be virtual, because we were always a virtual coaching business. In other words, we always delivered coaching virtually. But what was new is that our clients certainly did prioritize coaching. They were prioritizing their basic fundamental health, well-being, and safety. And so they went away from this being their top priority. That had a big impact on us. So what did we do? We had to make some staffing changes. We could no longer support the level of administrative staff that we had on the team. Yes, as business owners, we do need to make tough calls sometimes. And that's okay. It's part of running a business.
And I'm glad that you challenged the whole thought of the two separate, because you are absolutely right. It is, you should be making a healthy profit in your heart-led business and not be afraid of doing that as well.
Absolutely.
Because the healthier you are, the better you're able to help people.
100%. Profit isn't a shameful concept, right?
Yeah. Good.
Profit isn't a bad word. Profit is great.
Yeah.
Right? The more profitable we are in the coaching industry, the more viable it is. And I can't tell you how many coaches I've come across who aren't making a profit, who are really struggling, who are making like $15 per half an hour for their coaching. And I'm like, wow, that's terrible. That's like worse than as close to I was 21 years ago.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that's one thing that I'd like to showcase on this show is that you do need to make a profit if you're going to help people. And it's so important. And I'm glad that you illustrated that for the audience as well. Awesome. 100%. So how can people learn more about your program, and especially the journaling piece of that?
Okay. So if you're interested in learning about coaching, go to frameofmindcoaching.com. If you're an executive and you think to yourself, I want an amazing, phenomenal coach, come, let's have a talk. So frameofmindcoaching.com. But if you're listening and you're a coach or a healthcare provider and you think, man, I should really get my clients to journal, then the place to go is journalengine.com. Go check that out. It's super affordable to get your clients to journal.
Cool. And we'll link all that up in the show notes as well and make sure that everybody has everything that they need for that.
Awesome.
So, Kim, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really do appreciate it. And you taking the time to explain your heart-led business and your approach. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate being here.
Awesome. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in today for this episode of The Heart-Led Business. And make sure you're checking out everything that Kim is doing. And like I said, we're going to link all of that up into the show notes. And if you could do me a solid favor, and that is to give the show a rating and review so that we can get this out to more people and help them realize that having a heart-led business is the way to go. And you can definitely make a profit doing it as well. So until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.